Well, it might not have been the most remarkable race in the world, but remarkable scenes and a remarkable result for the title race as well. I just asked David to remove his ear defenders that we have to wear, just to listen to the crowd, because it is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, they have a real passion for it here, and unlike some of the other tracks, they're allowed to come on the start-finish straight just below the podium, and I think it gives such a great atmosphere.
Well, it's everything that we had hoped that it would live up to. It's just magical. Triumphant is a word I'd use here. It was a great day for Ferrari after the dramas that they had midweek. They've responded, they've reacted, they've done everything perfect. 2 cars on the podium. Magic day for Ferrari, magic day for Formula One.
We normally spend the pre-race chat struggling to hear ourselves because of the sound of the cars. We're actually struggling to hear ourselves because of the sound of the crowd. And if there's one way to endear yourself to the Tifosi, a pole and a win in your first race in a Ferrari in Italy, David, is not a bad way to do it.
The only box that's left to tick for Fernando Alonso is the World Championship. He won his first race for Ferrari. He's won his first Grand Prix in Monza for Ferrari. So all eyes on World Championship.
Well, it's fairy tale. We all called to question whether it was the right thing for him to do. We thought it was commercially driven by the sponsor, of course, but actually that's all now well into history. This has been an emphatic result for Ferrari, but in particular for Alonso.
Truly amazing scenes down here in the Monza pit lane. The crowd are all on the start-finish straights. You can see there Fernando Alonso. I imagine his heart is racing just a little bit at the moment. However, as special as this race was, it's been a special day for the championship as well. This is how things stand after this race. And the headline is, it's even tighter than we were before. Look at this. The top 5 drivers are now separated by just 1 win in the fight to be the Drivers' World Champion in 2010. And it's Mark Webber who leads. That significant. Red Bull come to a McLaren and a Ferrari circuit, and they do well. Congratulations to Mark Webber. He moves up ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Fernando Alonso up to 3rd, and Sebastian Vettel down to 5th. Let's just quickly get the thoughts on this, though, from Martin Whitmarsh, the team principal. And Martin, we take a look at that there. Lewis Hamilton sitting 2nd in the championship battle. A difficult day all round for you guys, really.
Yeah, no, it was disappointing, obviously, for Lewis and for the team, but I think you've got to say Ferrari were quick today. They drove a great race. I think we were in a situation where we had to stop. The new tyres were quicker, and we took, they had the luxury of waiting. They weren't about to stop on the same lap as us. They're either going to jump in quicker. Kubica was immediately quicker on the prime tyre, so we had to respond to that. We had the gap, we stopped, but it didn't quite work out. It was very, very close, but we didn't quite manage it. And Alonso was quick. Ferrari were very strong, and but I think Jensen drove a fantastic race. So he did everything that he could to win this race. I think he did a great job. For Lewis, and he was trying hard at the outset. He had to go out there and be assertive, and it didn't come off. I think it was a racing incident, but disappointing for him.
Well, first of all, I've got to say, thanks for giving us such a talking point, having the 2 different strategies on your drivers. We've not seen that for such a long time, so that was great. Do that a few more times for the end of the year.
We didn't do it just for you.
Well, we'll take it anyway at the Beeb. Lewis, obviously, very disappointing race there. What's the strategy now? You go back into the debrief. You just let them debrief as normal, or do you take them to one side and try and lift them? Because Jensen has obviously had a great result here today.
Yeah, no, I think it's business as normal. You've just seen the championship. It is still tight, and that's fantastic. We are in for a very exciting championship. We've got to just go on now. We've got another race ahead of us, which we've got to try and win. Simple as that.
Let's take a look then at Lewis's first lap incident. What did he say to you when he came back? Did he hold his hands up and accept responsibility for this?
Well, in truth, I haven't spoken to him because obviously I was on the pit wall. But I think, I think this was a racing incident. I think he was pushing very, very hard, and you have to do that. He had to go for that, and it was disappointing. But we now, we've got to rebuild from this.
Martin, really, the question is, why did Ferrari take so long? Because it was inevitable, wasn't it? It was a matter of time before Ferrari were going to make the pass, and really full marks to Jensen because he defended magnificently, and I thought as long as the race went on you had a better chance.
No, I think he drove fantastically, and as I say, we were in a situation that they weren't going to stop on the same lap, because why would they? If they jumped earlier and were quicker, they'd have got ahead. If they waited one lap and could put in that faster lap, they were going to get ahead. So they played the right game. I think we played the right game. It was very, very close, as we saw. But I think, as you say, Jensen in particular drove a fantastic race today.
We saw something coming off Jensen's car at the beginning of the race, coming out of the first chicane. Did he report any loss of downforce from that?
Yeah, well, he lost. He had the bottom of his rear wing end plate munched off by Fernando at that first corner. So it broke off and blew it. That wouldn't have helped the cause. But I don't think we're looking for excuses here. Ferrari.
There it goes.
Martin, I had quite the opposite effect. I reckoned you'd had already got too much downforce on, and anything falling off the car was going to be a result for you, but obviously you disagree.
Yeah, thanks for your advice as ever, Eddie.
Martin, let's quickly look ahead. Everyone said this was going to be a circuit that would suit McLaren. You leave here without the result that you were hoping for. How do you feel going ahead to the likes of Singapore and Korea and Abu Dhabi?
Well, everyone said this would suit us. I don't recall us saying it. I think every race you've got to take on its merit. I think Singapore, we had a great race there last year. Lewis won, and I'm sure he'll be trying to repeat that. It's a fantastic championship. It can go any way. Ferrari are there. Mercedes aren't far behind. You've got Red Bull and ourselves. So this is going to be an absolutely epic World Championship. This is the best in history.
OK, thank you very much. Let's call in Chris Dyer, Ferrari man through and through, and I'm sure delighted with the result from today. Chris, just step over here and have a chat with us. How do you feel?
Fantastic. It was. We knew we needed to perform well here to stay in the championship, and really the whole team put in a fantastic effort this weekend and got the result they deserved.
Was there any communication with Fernando about waiting until do one more lap when Jenson pitted, or he just knew the strategy beforehand?
Look, we thought before the race, if we were in the situation where we were behind him, it was going to be best to wait and stop one lap after him. Obviously, there's a lot of guesswork in that. You have to make some guesses about how the tyres are going to behave. And then as the race panned out, we saw a bit more of how the tyres were working. We saw a few other people stop and put the hard tyres on, so we were pretty confident that it was the right thing to do, just to sit and wait.
Chris, we kind of called before the race actually unfolded. We thought the best chances for Button to make it to the first corner first. Exactly what happened, but it was a cat and mouse thing. Surely you knew you were going to pick him off at any given time.
Look, we knew it was. We knew the first corner was important. We knew we wanted to be in front. We felt if we were in front at the first corner, we could control the race. Didn't work out like that, so we ended up behind. Had to fall back to Plan B, if you like. But then it was just a matter of sitting and waiting, looking after the tyres, making sure in that key one lap we had the performance we needed. And I think we were helped along a bit by our pit crew, who did an absolutely brilliant pit stop, and we saw how close it was at the first corner, so every little bit made the difference.
Well, Chris, well done. We know that today is really all about 25 points for Fernando Alonso. Just give us an idea, though, of how much more than that this means for your drivers and for the team to come here and witness scenes like this. Talk about inspiration for the final few races of the season.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the championship's concerned, you get the same points up for grabs every race. So from the championship point of view, it doesn't make any difference whether you win here or whether you win in Melbourne. But obviously for the team, for Ferrari, it's always a special place to win here in Monza.
OK, Chris, thank you very much indeed. Congratulations. Go and enjoy some classic Italian celebrations, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of those somewhere in Milan this evening.
Thank you.
Just don't tell Eddie where the party is. All right, well played. Thank you very much.
Thanks
nice to
very
see
much.
you. And if we look over to our left, we can see the celebration that's already happening on the pit lane. You can probably see the waves and the people. It's such a high pit wall, it's almost hard to see the fans, but trust me, they're there, and they are there in their thousands, and they're there celebrating the fact that Fernando Alonso has won the race. Let's now hear from the drivers.
Fernando, you said pole yesterday was special, so what does that make this win today on Ferrari's home soil?
Well, something maybe only we can compare with the feeling I had in 2006 winning in Barcelona, the home Grand Prix, because it was a very special moment, that one, and it is a very special moment, this one as well. So, fantastic feeling. Obviously, very tough race with very strong opposition today, with fantastic drive from Jenson, and we tried to put both Ferraris in the first two positions, and after the start it was difficult with Jenson's good start and good pace, but I think did a fantastic job the team again with a fantastic pit stop, and thanks to them we are sitting here, because we made the overtake in the garage.
What were you thinking when you saw Jenson peel into the pit lane? Were you thinking it was Christmas?
No, we were thinking at that time also, to be honest, the possibility of coming in. Obviously, the possibilities were two: coming one lap later or one lap earlier. We had to find the right choice in the right moment. When we saw Jenson coming, it was one of the two possibilities we had. So there were one lap to push, and rely on the mechanics, and I think the laps was more or less okay, nothing special, but the pit stop was super.
Well done. Jensen, you won the start, you soaked up all the pressure from Fernando, and then you blinked first at the pit stops. What happened?
Yeah, the start was good. Obviously, Fernando came over quite a bit at the start, but I had enough room to squeeze up the inside into turn one. And then, you know, the rest of the first out was pretty tough because the straight line speed that these guys have compared to me, because I'm running high downforce, it made it very tricky to hold off the challenges. So I spent most of the race looking in my mirrors, making sure that Fernando wasn't close enough. But it's so difficult a place around here to know whether the car is right up behind you or not. So I was actually watching from the TV screens to see the distance that he was behind. But a lot of pressure. I don't think we quite had the pace today compared to these guys. But it was all going pretty well. You know, I was pretty happy with the car. And then we decided to pit one lap earlier than Fernando. And for me, when I exited the pits, I had very little grip on the prime tyre. Lots of shuddering, which means the tyre just isn't working. So a little bit disappointing to find myself in that position and then see Fernando coming out the pits in front. But, you know, we had a good weekend, and to come away with a second is a great result. Obviously, you want the top step, but some good points. And, you know, I think for both of us here, well, all three of us here, we've done very well for our championship hopes, and you know, it's good heading out of Europe with a good points finish.
Tell us about the start in a bit more detail and just how close it got with the two Ferraris into the first corner.
I couldn't see Felipe. I got a very good start, and I could just see Fernando, and he was able to brake very late into the first corner, which surprised me a little bit. But I was able to hold him off, get a good exit out of the second corner, the second part of the chicane, which was always my worry, getting a bad exit there, and Fernando could come out on my tail and then tow me into turn 4. So it didn't happen. It was all looking very good, but yeah, quite a tough race mentally to have Fernando behind me for most of it. But came away with a second, which is one off being perfect. So I'm pretty happy, and we just look forward to the rest of the season.
Well done. Felipe, tell us about your start. Obviously battling very hard with Fernando into the first few corners, and then the contact with Lewis Hamilton.
Well, I had a very good start, not as Jensen, because I think his start was maybe the best. But I had also a good start, and then I saw them braking very late on turn 1. I was even a bit locking my wheels as well, trying to be in the same direction, you know, on the first corner. And then when I saw Fernando a little bit wide, so I tried to put it on the outside. And then on the exit of the second corner, he had a little bit better traction, so he was able to go out slightly in front of me, and then he was also in the good side for the La Roja, which is the turn 4. And I was completely on the left, so when I saw him going to the corner, I went as well, and then I felt something on my back, and that was Lewis, that he was trying to. He was just behind Fernando, you know, on the inside. I was a little bit on the outside, and he touched me, so I didn't see, to be honest, what's happened there. I just felt something on my back.
You stayed out longer than the other two before you made your first pit stop. Did you think you might be able to jump them? It was very close.
Well, it was a good idea, to be honest, to stay longer. Maybe I'm supposed to stay a little bit longer as well. But you know, I expect the hard tires, you know, after one lap, after the out lap, to be stronger than the soft, and it was the case because it was not enough. So I pitted, and then I was struggling like Jensen massively on the out lap with the hard. But then the hard improves, and it was quicker than the soft. So, but anyway, it was a good race. So I think the team did a good job. I think I lost a little bit of time on the pit stop as well. Maybe that was something, you know, to fight with positions in the front. But anyway, it was a great race, and especially when you come here and you see, you know, all these people on the main straight, and you don't see the asphalt, so you just see people all around. It's just fantastic. So it's a great feeling, and being the podium here in Monza is a fantastic feeling for us.
An amazing day for Felipe, an amazing result for Ferrari. Talk about a good way to put your recent troubles behind you. Not the result that maybe the British fans at home would have wanted, but it is the result that we were all looking for here those of us who are supporting the Italian team, of course. So Felipe Massa finishes third, just behind Jenson Button and Fernando Alonso. We'll talk about how Sebastian Vettel had a strong fourth-place finish today. A strong performance from Nico Rosberg. Mark Webber will have been very frustrated by his battle with young Nico Hülkenberg there. Michael Schumacher, again, not managing to outperform his younger teammate, and the same applies to Rubens Barrichello as well today. And then we slip down to the guys who didn't manage to pick up the points. And the pressure maybe on the likes of Petrov, De La Rosa and Alguersuari as we come towards the end of the season is just very slowly starting to build. Congratulations to Virgin Racing's Timo Glock finishing ahead of Heikki Kovalainen just there. And then at the back of the grid, the guys that didn't make it to the end of the race, including Bruno Senna. Lewis Hamilton, of course, we'll have another look at that moment in a moment. And Kamui Kobayashi, who hardly got going, did he? And this is what it means then for the Drivers' Championship. Mark Webber is the new leader. He's leapt ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Fernando Alonso goes from 5th up to 3rd. And Sebastian Vettel, he slips down to 5th place, but I think he'll be quite happy actually with the way this result turned around in the end. And as far as the Constructors' Championship is concerned, well, it was close before the race got going. It's not an awful lot wider now, is it? Just 3 points behind Red Bull and McLaren. The big headline there is Ferrari have now started to catch up. Well, guys, let's go straight back to the very start of the race today. And we mentioned before the race started that since the year 2000, the pole sitter hasn't lost the lead on the opening lap, apart from once. Make that twice now.
Indeed, yeah. Obviously, Jenson absolutely aced his start. Be interested to know if any of that did come from the extra downforce. See, Fernando was as aggressive as you can be defending that position. You see Felipe in the background there trying to see if he can sneak through as well. And this is, I think, some great racing from these guys, you know, to judge, to keep the distance, not touch the wings. And you see Jenson obviously manages to pull clear as the two Ferrari drivers go wheel to wheel down through Curva Grande.
We've seen all weekend in the smaller Formula all kinds of cars coming together at that point, Eddie, but they did really well to avoid each other. However, Alonso almost didn't avoid Jenson Button at the start. Is this a reaction, Eddie, to getting a bad start, do you think, cutting across?
Well, we've seen a number of bad starts. We saw Webber at the last race, and Alonso. There is always that little bit of extra pressure for the pole man because he's there in front. He's everyone, you know, he's a shooting duck, isn't he? He's a tardy start. In fact, he was very lucky that if Massa had been a bit more aggressive, he would have taken him. So I think Alonso, on the start anyway, was that bit lucky.
Talking of shooting ducks, it was Jenson that shot off from the very start. A fantastic start by Jenson. He's good at this, David.
Well, he is. You know, there's not a bad starter out there. It's all relative. You know, the difference in the starts there could be down to just, you know, hundreds of a second of reaction. But Jenson at this point knows he's done everything he'd set out to do, taking that second place run into a pole lead. And at this point, he would just be looking in his mirrors to make sure he's got enough of gap, because of course he had more downforce.
But now on board with Felipe Massa, he would have been a man keen to prove a point here this weekend, Eddie, wouldn't he?
And I think he did. He emerged. You saw, you know, the face, the body language at the couple of races ever since Hockenheim depicted a story. I think he did really well here, and I think he did Alonso a really big favour. Another person would have kept him out on the grass. I think Alonso was the perfect teammate in this given situation with Massa, but Massa did give him the ground.
Well, but in saying that though, I think there's no doubt these Ferrari guys are racing at the start.
Yeah.
You know, they were millimetres apart from touching at the exit of that first chicane. We've seen them touch earlier in the season, so clearly Ferrari, if there are any team orders there, they don't apply to the first lap.
I'm not suggesting there's team orders. What I'm saying is he got a more comfortable ride than if it was somebody like Kubica or somebody really hard or a Michael Schumacher. I'm not quite sure that would have been the outcome if it had been Michael in that position.
OK, well, there were some hard rides for some of the guys out there, in particular Lewis Hamilton. We'll look at that in just a moment, but let's quickly go live to the pit lane. Ted Kravitz has got something rather interesting to show us. Ted, what have you got?
Yes, Jake, very interesting. We're down in Parc Fermé. I just want to show you the extent of the damage on Jenson Button's car to understand why he wasn't able to pull away more from Fernando Alonso in that first stint, and why he was then vulnerable to Fernando Alonso when as soon as the pit stop happened. And look at how much damage is done to the end plate. I mean, we said there is some damage to the diffuser if you look very carefully. There's a strake that's missing, but the whole of the side of the end plate has gone. And so McLaren confirmed to me in the middle of the race that there was significant loss of downforce, and without that, who knows what would have happened. It might have been a very, very different race. But you can see Jenson really was driving a little bit with one arm tied behind his back.
OK, Ted, thanks for that. And the strange thing is when we look at these replays on the television and you can see the contact here, it looks like hardly anything's come off the car. It looks like a sort of tiny bit of paper or something is floating through the air. But that was substantial damage, David.
Yeah, but it's it's the end plate at the end of the day. It's not the actual wing. It's not the part that's giving you the downforce. We had Martin Whitmarsh on directly after the race, and he said that it might have made an effect, but we're not using that as an excuse. So I would be a lot more concerned if it was actually the main face of the wing or something upstream of that. Damage at the back of the car. Largely you've used up the efficiency of the air by that point. So I think that ultimately Ferrari were just quicker today.
There is an age-old theory between team bosses in race and drivers. Things fall off cars, the uprights, all sorts of things bend. I don't care what happens. Drivers in a race situation are always able to drag the car around in a very, very competitive position. I don't think Jensen would have had a clue or even be remotely interested in what happened there, and I don't think it in any shape or form affected his performance.
Okay, well, you say that things fall off cars. We'll have a look at a car falling off the track very shortly, because of course it wasn't the race result that Lewis Hamilton was looking for. But before that, we're going to be joined by Sebastian Vettel. And talking of cars not making it to the end of the race, Seb, thanks very much for joining us. You had us concerned at one point. That was quite a... Yeah, I know, I'm a bit too tall.
I go there.
Okay, you guys stand next to Eddie.
More comfortable.
It was quite a nervous wail that you gave us midway through that race when you thought you had engine problems.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, wasn't too happy, so wasn't smiling underneath the helmet. We're not sure what happened. For me, it obviously felt like a loss of power. We don't know if it was engine or probably some friction in the car. The main thing, the problem solved itself, fortunately, so we could carry on. But obviously, I lost the ground to the group and lost the toe, so I had to make up the time in the corners. In the end, it worked, but it was tight.
Surely you must have changed the settings. We saw you obviously had different modes, so it was an electronic system, something that you've done something in the car to change it.
Yeah, we tried obviously to make sure we don't by running maybe too rich or too lean or one way or the other risk to have any kind of problem. So we went back to standard more or less, and as I said, flat out and tried to come back.
Just taking you back to the start of the Grand Prix, that obviously worked out very well for you. Can you talk us through your start?
I didn't. I mean, start wasn't good, as you see. Both of us, we lose the ground to the group, and then I went on the left side. Obviously, it's difficult to judge. Mark doesn't really see me at this stage, so I can't really jump in on the brakes if he has to go left, as we see. Rosberg is on the inside. I have really no place to go. Someone hit me in the back. That's why I couldn't make the second apex. My rain light was broken also after the race, and as I said, we lost a lot of ground, unfortunately. But in the end, we came back, so it all worked.
And what was your emotion as you headed around here to see Lewis Hamilton, the man leading the championship race in the gravel?
Nothing.
Oh, come on.
No, I mean, it's the first lap of the Grand Prix. Obviously, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he did a mistake or he had something on the car. So, you don't know. You are busy. Obviously, you saw I was just side by side with Michael. So, and it's a long way to go. It's not like, oh yeah, Lewis is out. Great. It's 52 laps still to go, and a lot of things can happen. So,
Sebastian, you have to admit, at that particular point in the race, when you were that far behind, to finish fourth was almost like a win in many respects, because a lot of things happen for you, particularly when you think about the engine problem you had.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously it didn't look too great after the...
I think you've got a friend there. Yeah. He's wearing a Ferrari hat. Don't get too friendly.
Not a friend then.
No,
no, but obviously it didn't look too good in the first lap, and we know that this was a very difficult race for us. So you'll have to not lean back and wait, but obviously try to attack, but wait and see what chances you might get, and then you have to make sure to use them like we did. It turned out to be the smarter way to stay out. I was pushing for that also on the radio, using the options until the very last lap, limiting the time on the primes because the warm-up was probably not 100%. So in the end it all worked, so we can be proud of us.
So you're in the title hunt. You've had a couple of dodgy races. You're in front of your teammate.
A couple more.
You're coming towards the end of the Grand Prix. You need to make a stop. What are your emotions when you're stopping for, it was about 3.3 seconds, we think, in that pit lane, and then you come out in the perfect spot, really?
Well, I mean, I think I have been in the title hunt before, so nothing has really changed. The pit stop was fantastic. The boys did a very good job. It was a very quick pit stop, and I didn't know where I will come out. I got the radio call that Rosberg and Webber will be, will be tight. So you don't know how tight. You just focus on the line, get this pit limiter switched off, and just step on the throttle. In the end, it was quite comfortable. But you're there on more or less cold tires, and you have to bed them in. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Plan worked.
congratulations today. So much for this being a McLaren and a Ferrari track, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously, you know, the first 3 cars, two Ferraris, 1 McLaren. And as I said, Red Bull, I think, best chance today was 4th, and we got it. It was tight, but the main thing is we got that 4th place and the points for it.
Well done. You're right in it. Just 1 win between the top 5, so thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Congratulations today. And let's now head to a man who won't be quite as happy as Sebastian Vettel, Lewis Hamilton. Let's go straight back to the very start of the race and Lewis's big moment. How much is he to blame when we look at this again, David?
Well, you know, he's a racer. There was a car's width there between the curb and the Ferrari, and he stuck his nose in there. You can't know at that point whether the other car's going to continue to turn left. I just think it's a racing incident. He'll clearly be disappointed, and on reflection, if he could do it again, he wouldn't stick his nose in there.
And Sebastian makes the point that it has ended up with being a good day for Ferrari and McLaren, but it's been a really good day actually for Red Bull as well. Serious damage limitation actually with the way it's worked out for them, Eddie.
I want to roll the clock forward a little bit to Abu Dhabi. They will look back on Monza, in my view, as the key change of the. They have emerged with 4th place, which they really was the best expectation, and that's what they've achieved. They're actually very happy. If you look at the way Sebastian is walking around, and I'm sure the same goes for Webber, he's still leading the championship. For me, I think, despite the points, big day for Red Bull.
Webber will be happy now, but serious frustration for him on the track today. We'll have a look in a minute at him and Nico Hülkenberg going toe-to-toe, and Mark getting more and more frustrated. But early doors in the race even, Mark and Michael were enjoying each other's company, weren't they?
Well, indeed. We can see the battle here down into the first chicane side by side. That's actually the pass that Mark was able to pull. And then, of course, with Michael, you can expect that that's going to be it. So he gets a drive off the first chicane, hooks up into the slipstream of the Red Bull. Mark goes to the left to defend, and then this just shows that Michael may be struggling a little bit for speed, but he's not losing any of that racing instinct. He's on the outside, squeezing Mark into the apex. You know, the chances of that coming off are incredibly slim, but it's showing that he's still fighting for every last piece of racetrack and opportunity.
You say that, David, but am I missing something? I can't believe I've seen Michael Schumacher passed so easily. I mean, it was an absolute slam dunk, wasn't it? Webber just moved up. There was no fight back coming into the first chicane corner. I thought it was a very easy move. I've never seen Michael taking that easy.
I think he might be a little bit sensitive to how sharply he moves around, given what happened in Budapest. So maybe
that's
he's
never
gone too
stopped
much
him
the other
before,
way.
so I don't know.
You actually made a quick mention yesterday in qualifying of Michael walking away from F1 end of this season. Any more you can tell us about that?
I think it wasn't a throwaway. I've just made an allude that I thought there was a bit too much activity, too many team bosses, too many drivers in and out of the Mercedes motorhome, and being a little bit suspicious by nature of these kind of movements. 2 and 2 were ringing in my head, and I say, hey, we saw the apology that he had made to Rubens this weekend. We clearly know from David the interview that he did at the last race, talking about a 41-year-old not doing as much maybe as a 21-year-old. And these were signs for me that maybe Michael Schumacher is for once rethinking his plan of doing a full season next year, because there's no doubt this car has now become a disappointment to him, and he's psychologically saying, can they really deliver this top car that I can win a championship with next year? Only he knows the answer to that.
Okay, and when we know the answer to that, we'll share that with you, but I think it's a case of watch this space. So as we're talking about one German driver maybe calling time on his career, there's another one who's just arrived in Formula One, and he was being a little bit cheeky today, Nico Hülkenberg in the Williams, wasn't he? Are you surprised there was no penalty for this?
Well, the stewards can look at the, you can see him running wide here at the first chicane over the curbs, rejoining, and you know, clearly in that situation he hasn't gained any time, but you know, the argument would be that if that was Monaco, he wouldn't be able to run wide, he would have crashed into the barrier. So there's no question that as a driver you drive this racetrack differently. Here we see again running down into the first chicane, Mark pulls out to the left hand side, Nico defends the inside as he absolutely can, and then Mark, you know, I thought at that point Mark was taking a big risk, given that, you know, good points today is better than obviously getting in the mix. But we'll see later on when he gets down to the second chicane that he missed that second chicane a couple of times. Now, what I was going to say is, as a driver, you know you can get away with it once or twice, and you keep that in your back pocket. There you go, Mark on the outside, and eventually
that would have felt
good
eventually, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Mark would be thinking, you know, whatever he does when he's excited, you know, yeah, baby, or whatever he says. But you can see the team there appreciated that move as well.
Yeah, but let's look at it objectively. The situation is Mark Webber is leaving here furious because in his mind Hülkenberg cost him 4th place. Make no mistake about that, and in my view he did do. Hülkenberg made too many mistakes flying over the chicane. He went through it at least 3 times that we could see. Stewards, that they got the knowledge up there, so they know better than we do. But for me, it was he should have let him pass.
OK, so Eddie thinks that Mark Webber's furious. I wonder if that's been tempered by the fact that he also leaves here, leading the championship battle. Let's hear from Mark Webber. He's with Lee Mackenzie.
Mark, is it a frustrating day for you?
Yeah, very. We underperformed as a team today and could have capitalised on getting more points, but sniffed around just getting a few, so a bit disappointing, but at least we got some, so it's all right.
Where do you think that you lost out in particular today?
Start and a bit of first lap, and obviously lost a lot of time behind Hülkenberg. He spent every second lap going through the chicanes, and so stewards did a hard job on him, so left him alone, so that was interesting, and then yeah, that was the race.
And how surprised were you to see Sebastian coming out in front of you in that last-minute pit stop?
Oh, not very, because we fought with Hülkenberg, but yeah, I knew that the option was fine. Prime tyre wasn't mega, and so it worked out well for him.
You are still leading the championship, though. That's well, you're now leading the championship after what happened to Lewis.
Yeah, but you still got to make most of opportunities, so wasn't the best day.
Well, Mark's not happy with Nico Hülkenberg. Eddie, you were spot on there, but ever fair here on the BBC. Here is the other side of the story.
Nico, a hard battle out there today. I think that Mark Webber was hoping that you would maybe get out of his way. He was saying you were cutting chicanes. There was lots of talk on team radio. What do you say?
Well, yeah, I did cut the chicane. I was trying hard. I was fighting. I'd struggled a bit with my brake pedal. And, I was fighting the car, trying to defend my position. Obviously, when you push, this can happen. I didn't get a penalty, so I think it was okay, even though it was pushing the limits. But, it was a nice fight and a nice result.
It was a nice result. It was a real positive race for you.
Yeah, it was, indeed. My start wasn't too good. But then I got 2 places back in the first turn, and, I was P6 straight away. And then, trying to not make a mistake under the pressure of the Red Bulls all the time. I have enough of Red Bulls in my mirror now.
Well, from one German to 2 others, and the Mercedes team. Not a bad finish, actually, today for Mercedes, who really have been struggling of late. It was a 5th place finish for Nico Rosberg, and Michael Schumacher finishes 9th. Let's hear from them both, starting with Michael.
So, Michael, the initial plan worked. You made up a couple of places at the start, but just tell us what happened after that in your race.
Well, it was a tight start with lots of action. Then nice fighting that gained me another position against Sebastian. Unfortunately, where Lewis ran off, circuit seemed to be very slippery. I ran wide and Sebastian caught me back. And then fight with Mark that I struggled out of the last corner with the soft tyres. I couldn't keep the car quite over there, and he just got a good run at me and slipstreamed me. So we had a nice fight back into turn 4, second chicane, which is nice. I mean, it's exciting, and from there on the race was pretty lonely.
I know this is a track that you love to race at, and the Tifosi are all packed in here, but what was it like as a Mercedes driver? Are you getting to grips with this car any better?
It's, there are certain characteristics that I'm not a fan of, I have to say, but, that's the way it is. But naturally, knowing Ferrari winning here today, and I want to express my congratulations, it's a fantastic situation for all the Tifosi that come here to support mainly Ferrari. And it's glad to go around the parade lap by the end of the race and see the emotions and how happy the fans are.
Were you wishing at any point you were in a red car?
No, I'm not a person to dream too much about the past. It's naturally that we are not completely excited where we are, but that's what it is. If you remember in the early days in Ferrari, it didn't look that different. So I'm starting a new process again. It's good.
Nico, a hard fight out there today, and it must have been a bit disappointing to see Sebastian Vettel popping up at the end.
Yeah, it was a tough fight. I went for it every single lap in the beginning against Roberts. We were exactly the same lap times always, and I had to pull out a 10th a lap. And then with Sebastian in the end, where I just made a mistake in the braking because I was pushing very hard, and that's really a pity that I lost that place. But I think 5th place is still okay for us.
I know that you've been battling hard with the car over the course of this season. Is it a comfortable drive? Are these enjoyable races for you?
I don't know, not really, to be honest, because I'm pushing so hard. I'm on the absolute limit, and it's not so easy with the car at the moment, especially through the medium speed corners. The handling is not ideal, so we definitely have some work to do.
Well done today, anyway. Thank you.
do indeed. Tough times for Nico and Michael. They're working hard, but the car just isn't good enough at the moment. But let's go for a walk down the paddock here in Monza. All weekend there's been a really special atmosphere here, actually, and arguably, apart from probably one man, you could say that pretty much everyone's a winner, David.
Well, indeed. I think, if we start with the guy who's the big loser here, it's obviously Lewis Hamilton, and he'll obviously play that over in his head time and time again until the next race. But Ferrari fans, they're winners, but Alonso winning the race. I think McLaren will be happy with that result. Jensen, he drove impeccably all weekend and made some really key and good decisions, it turns out, going with that extra downforce. I think the Red Bull guys are happy because it was damage limitation. They never expected to be quick here. So, it's only really Lewis is the big loser.
The way that things were looking before we had the last two races, Eddie, you would have said a first place and a third place for McLaren wouldn't be a bad result. Could have been so much more, though, couldn't it?
If you're talking about McLaren, it's one thing. If you're talking about Ferrari, then, of course, it's absolutely...
Talking about McLaren.
McLaren. I don't think... after they obviously had some confusion. They hadn't got, if you like, the race strategy sorted out. There was such diverse between one car and the other. They clearly didn't know themselves which was the better and the quicker setup. So I think there was some confusion there. Ferrari did know. Both cars were the same. They drove at the same pace and they knew exactly what they were doing. I think the stars of today were, quite apart from the fans, because we have to mention them, they make this place special, but the Ferrari team responded and they gave the fans everything that they needed.
And the issue now for McLaren is heading to races where they're not expected to be as strong. As Martin Whitmarsh said, it's the media that claimed this was a McLaren circuit, not them, but you can't deny that it looks like a car that performs better at places like here and Canada as opposed to the sort of squirt and turn tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. The cars have characteristics. You'd obviously develop that car during the year. The prototypes and race on race, they'll come with new parts. But essentially, this is a slippery car. It develops good top speed, appears to brake well. Where it tends to struggle relative to the Red Bull is when you've got a series of medium-speed corners, the downforce type corners. Whether that's just because of downforce or whether it's because of other mechanical issues, we don't know, of course. But they need to be developing something in those areas if they want to be competitive relative to Red Bull in the coming races.
Talking of slippery, we're hoping we can get hold of Stefano Domenicali. He's probably trying to hide away from you, Eddie, and if we get desperate, we'll be sending you into that Ferrari motorhome behind us to go and get him.
He should be desperate to come and talk to us. This is one of his finest moments. Oh, speak of who? Let me get him. At this stage, I don't think it's going to be that difficult. Many congratulations. Thank you very much. Bravo.
That was one of the easier grabs that you've had in the past couple of years, Eddie. Stefano, huge congratulations. No win for Ferrari here in Italy since 2006, but I'm sure you hadn't forgotten just how good it feels to win in front of the Tifosi. Amazing scenes out there.
Yes, I have to say that we were just speaking with Jensen. We were on the podium to see that kind of, it's impressive to see. You see a river of people coming, shouting and singing. It's really an incredible emotion that will stay. I think in all the people who were up there will stay for a long time.
Just looking back at the start of the race, we could clearly see your drivers about no orders. They were racing, almost touching through that first chicane. What is your emotion like at that
if we
time?
do something in one way, you are not happy. If we do the other way around, you are not happy.
You can't do anything right. I was delighted, but it was just nerve-wracking to see them almost touching.
It was very close, no doubt. But, in this condition, what are you going to do? You try to... today was good.
Stefano, you know what I'm saying to you that Massa made it easy for Alonso after the first corner. How would you respond?
I don't remember the first corner anymore.
I bet you don't. You must love us having Eddie Jordan in the pit lane every week.
It's okay. Yeah, it's fantastic. That's part of
Mr. Conspiracy Theory.
Now, absolutely.
He knows I'm happy for him.
I bet. Plenty of people have said they're bringing upgrades to Singapore. It's probably the final big upgrade push for the rest of the season for a lot of the teams. What can you tell us about your car in Singapore?
We have seen that the situation race by race is changing so quickly that today we saw Red Bull not so strong as it was normally. We saw McLaren strong and it's difficult to say. What I can say is really that we will do something on the car. Let's hope that to do something in the right direction, because what we did in Belgium was not really that... we didn't bring what was expected. So it's important in this week because, in 5 days' time we have to leave, that we consider all the things that we have done in the best way that we can do.
Okay, plenty of support for Fernando, not just here, but also from his teammate, which may well be very helpful for the next few races, actually.
I don't know. I think it's important that if you have a good performance, then the others The others need to react, but we need to keep the feet on the ground.
That's the point. The others.
Honestly, you know, I wasn't destroyed after Belgium. I'm not really on the start today, so let's be cool.
Okay, well, the others need to react. We'll see what they do. Thank you very much, Stefano. Thank you for
very
joining
much.
us.
Ciao.
Just to let you know, of course, that you can see highlights of this win for Stefano Domenicali's team tonight on BBC 3 at 11:15. And then next weekend, there's going to be some MotoGP action from Spain. And we're back in a couple of weeks' time in Singapore. And next, we're off to this.
Hit the button, buddy.
Thank you very much for pressing the red button to join us for the F1 Forum.
Formula One, you've got to cover all the bases. I can tell you what a team does.
Hit the button, buddy.
Listen to Mr. Big Brain here. Why does he never deliver any of that in the first part of the show?
What do you think Eddie would be saying to Sebastian Vettel?
I can't say that. I can't say that on TV.
So polite, isn't he?
Isn't he?
Hit the button, buddy.
The guys are just getting the boxing gloves ready right now.
Can we film that?
Yeah, I'm up for that. Yeah.
What one word would you use, Eddie, to describe today's race?
Magic.
He did it in one word, magic. All your emails, all your texts, all your tweets. Thanks for getting in touch.
Hit the button, buddy.
Hit the button, buddy, indeed, the red button. We'd love you to join us right now on the F1 Forum. So, Fernando Alonso's win injects a new dynamic into the title race, and after a summer of sport that promised so much, at least Formula One's jaunt across Europe has delivered. Thanks very much for being with us every step of the way, and we'll see you in Singapore.
In the land of the Matador, it's Red Bull on a charge. Nobody does Grand Prix racing like this.
Mark Webber, you have won the Monaco Grand Prix.
Welcome to Istanbul Park. Oh, did it come together? What was going on there? First time win for Lewis Hamilton in 2010. Oh no! Mark Webber's gone right up there. There is the checkered flag for Mark Webber.
Fernando is faster than you.
Schumacher's almost put him in the wall. Schumacher almost put him in the wall there. So there's a problem there. Vettel has lost it there on Jenson Button. Lewis Hamilton has won at Spa. But the McLaren driver, the world champion, leads into the first corner. Hamilton is out. Here he comes. Has he got ahead of him? Yes, he has. It's Forza Ferrari, Forza Fernando.